Welcome to Color Commentary, a podcast where the stories shaping our world are told in black and white first, and then we dig into their deeper meaning in full color. Each week, I bring you the news like this. First, we start with what I like to call the black and white section, a clear, straight shooting rundown of the facts and the tradition of the greats, Ed Bradley, Walter Cronkite, and the classic voices of journalism. Then we shift into the color commentary section, where I add my own analysis, perspective, and critique. Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes I'll have a guess, but the goal is always the same: to tell the truth, to connect the dots, and to leave you thinking about what comes next. Let's get into it. All right, so this week we're talking about Eddie Murphy, my GOAT. Netflix just dropped a documentary called Being Eddie, and while I knew most of what was in there, what can I say about myself knowing that? It got me thinking about something bigger. Eddie Murphy isn't just arguably the greatest comedian of all time. He's the kind of architect I respect, the quiet kind, the one who changes the landscape without needing a title or a speech. Let me explain. In November of 2025, Netflix released Being Eddie, a documentary chronicling Eddie Murphy's career from teen comic to Hollywood legend. The film features interviews from Adam Sandler, Arsenio Hall, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Jamie Foxx, Jerry Seinfeld, Kevin Hart, Pete Davidson, Tracy Ellis Ross, and Tracy Morgan. It also added some posthumous interviews from his brother, Charlie Murphy, rest in peace. In the documentary, Murphy reveals he had never tried cocaine, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke cigarette, and was 30 years old when he smoked his first joint, all right? Murphy states that peace of mind is his goal in life, and that if you put your kids first, you never make a wrong decision. He has 10 children. When you're rich like that, God bless you. But let's look at the data on Murphy's filmmaking impact. In 1989, Murphy wrote, directed, and starred in Harlem Nights. The film brought together 3 generations of black comedians: Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Della Reese, Charlie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, and Robin Harris, just to name a few. There were more. The film was released November 17, 1989, with Red Fox making his last film appearance before his death in 1991. In 92, Murphy created and starred in Boomerang. The film had a $42 million budget, the largest for any black film at the time, and went on to make more than $130 million globally. The film received an infamous review calling it a science fiction film because those writers didn't know about any successful black companies. Critics at Papers of Record suggested that the lack of white characters in significant roles was fantasy. Director Reginald Hudlin, Reggie Huddy, I like to call him Reggie Huddy, but director Reginald Hudlin responded to LA Times critic Kenneth Turin, stating that a movie showing successful African Americans in the business world offended Turin because there aren't enough white people in it. Here's the career launch data. Many black actors who later received greater recognition made early appearances in Murphy's films. Damon Wayans was in Beverly Hills Cop. Halle Berry and Martin Lawrence was in Boomerang. Samuel L. Jackson and Cuba Gooding Jr. were in Coming to America. Dave Chappelle in The Nutty Professor. And Chris Rock was in Beverly Hills Cop 2. Chris Rock was also the mail boy in Boomerang, by the way. During Murphy's 2019 return to SNL after 35 years, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, and Tracy Morgan joined him on stage, described as 3 comedians whose careers were greatly impacted by Murphy. Murphy stayed away from Saturday Night Live for years after a David Spade joke in 1995, only returning for a brief cameo in 2015's 40th anniversary special, then hosting again in 2019. You know, David Spade had the joke about, oh, look, a falling star. Eddie Murphy remembered that. And he did say in the documentary that he didn't necessarily take issue with Spade. He took issue with SNL as an institution because it had to go through so many passes before it could be said there. And he felt that with everything that he did for that show, he just didn't think that that was cool. and he stood on business for 30 plus years. Okay? But that's the news. Now let's talk about it. You're listening to Color Commentary with Dr. Cole. Listen, I have a few different thoughts on this story. First, let me tell you why Eddie Murphy is on my Mount Rushmore, okay? And listen, I'm just using Mount Rushmore as because you all understand what people mean when they say the Mount Rushmore. I know I got more than 4 people, okay? Somebody's gonna email me and tell me that whatever. But I digress. Let me tell you why Eddie is on it for me. So here's who I just hold. These are my favorite people in their respective industries, okay? It's Michael Jordan. It's Eddie Murphy. It's Michael Jackson. Mike Tyson. Oh, and it's Janet Jackson. I love Janet Jackson so much. I still love Janet. Janet Jackson is my favorite woman. Like, she is like one of my favorite people, okay? The love I have for her will never, ever fade, all right? But these are my GOATs. And after watching Being Eddie, I realized something. Eddie might be the most quietly impactful of them all. Not because he branded himself as an activist or a revolutionary, but because he changed systems while most people just saw jokes. Now, I have a hot take here. I think the word activist has lost some of its teeth, man. I mean, we put it on everything now. There's so much performance around it that sometimes the title gets louder than the work. And Eddie has just never chased that label. He wasn't giving keynotes about liberation, which I like keynotes about liberation. So it's not shade towards that. But if you look at how he changed television, how he reshaped Hollywood, and how he might be forever shadow banned from ever winning an Oscar, how he used his leverage to bring more Black people into the industry and to bury and pay off the debts of his comedy heroes, that impact is undeniable. I want to honor that. Let's start with what happened in 1992. Eddie Murphy releases Boomerang. It's a romantic comedy where Black people are executives, entrepreneurs, and power brokers. No drug dealers, no criminals, no poverty porn. Just Black excellence existing as a fact, not as a statement. And what happens? A critic calls it science fiction. Science fiction. Because in their world, Black success at that level could only exist in the realm of fantasy alongside aliens and time travel. Disrespectful bastards. Here's the first lesson Eddie gave me. Be confident in your purpose. Know what you're doing and who you're doing it for. And do not feel compelled to explain it to everybody. Boomerang was activism without the speech. It centered Black excellence and called it normal. It had people in HBCU shirts and sweatshirts and showed them in charge. And the fact that some critics read that as fantasy was not Eddie's problem to solve. But here's what's powerful about Eddie's response, or lack thereof. He didn't write op-eds. He didn't do the talk show circuit defending himself. He just kept making movies. He addressed it when somebody asked him about it on late night TV, made it funny, punched them, you know what I'm saying, metaphorically, and kept it pushing. And in those movies, he kept hiring Black talent before they were actually Black talent. Think about this timeline. Chris Rock was nobody when Eddie put him in Beverly Hills Cop 2 in 87. Halle Berry was unknown when she got Boomerang. Now, people knew who Halle Berry was, but Boomerang kind of took it from being, oh, is that Halle Berry lady to that's Halle Berry. Do you understand? He put Halle Berry and Robin Givens next to each other. And he showed like different types of Black women in power and in charge. He made 3-dimensional characters, man. And Halle Berry became, a household name. And she still is one. I'm not saying that Eddie Murphy made her a star. I'm simply saying that he helped out a lot. And I say that respectfully. I think Miss Berry would say that too, but I don't know because I don't know her. would love to know her. So, Miss Berry, if you see this, I say this with all due respect. I would love to know if you consider Eddie being like, a big arbiter of your success to come. Either way. Martin Lawrence, same movie. Also, Martin Lawrence is now his brother because Eddie's kid and Martin's kid have gotten married, and soon they'll be having little funny ass babies. That baby is gonna have the DNA of two of the funniest Negroes of all time. I'm sorry, I just want to know how funny this child is gonna be. I hope the children, I hope they go into some kind of entertainment. But anyway, I digress. Dave Chappelle got his first real shot in The Nutty Professor. Samuel L. Jackson and Cuba Gooding Jr. coming to America. Eddie was running a whole underground railroad of black talent, moving them from obscurity to opportunity. That was lesson 1. Lesson 2. Push your talent and do not be afraid to fail in public. Eddie takes big swings. Harlem Nights, Boomerang, Coming to America. These were not small, safe movies. And sometimes the swing misses with the people holding the scorecards, but when he connects, he changed culture, man. And let's not talk about the soundtracks. All the soundtracks are bangers. Boomerang soundtrack gave us Tony Braxton. You can't do that if you plan it not to lose. This is not a prevent defense type of career. And he did it without a single hashtag, without a movement name, without a nonprofit, just commerce and creativity. He's just that talented and thoughtful. Now, Harlem Nights might be the most misunderstood movie in black cinema history. Also, it is one of my favorite movies. I don't give a damn what critics say. I love Harlem Nights. I watch it all the time still. So quotable. But Eddie managed to put Richard Pryor, Red Fox, and himself, 3 generations of black comedy royalty, in the same film. It's like having Malcolm, Martin, and Obama in the same room. It wasn't just a movie. It was a historical document, all right? Red Fox died in 91, and Pryor's health declined after the film due to multiple sclerosis, MS. RIP to both those legends. This was their last dance, and Eddie orchestrated it. Third lesson, spend your clout on your people. Eddie was not just building a resume. He was building an ecosystem. When you get power and you are still the only one eating, that is not success. That's hoarding. Coming to America needs its own conversation. Since 1988, man. Eddie creates a film where the richest, most sophisticated characters are African royalty. They are black royalty. The barbershop scene alone, okay? It brought you in to these black male spaces where philosophy, sports, and straight up lies just get to coexist. He was capturing the beauty and the brilliance of the black barbershop. Long before barbershop, which I also got to show a lot of love to. Prince Hakeem wasn't coming to America to escape poverty or war. He was coming to find love and authenticity. He was choosing to work at McDowell's. And as the movie would tell you, not to be mistaken for McDonald's. They're two very different things. There's absolutely no copying happening between McDowell's and McDonald's. And if you don't get that reference, damn it, then you got some cultural homework to do. All right? It's a different kind of story, man. And let's talk about the casting. James Earl Jones and Matt Sinclair as the king and queen, man. Darth Vader was the king, son. All right? They were so regal in those roles that Disney, you know that little company with the mouse? That ain't so little, that's actually one of the biggest companies in the history of the planet? They were so regal that Disney cast him as Mufasa and Sarabi in The Lion King. You understand what this lowly little black movie to hit? The Lion King, bruh. The one that Beyonce just remade. That one. Listen, man. Eddie didn't just make a comedy. He reset how Hollywood could imagine Black royalty. But here's what really gets me about the Ben Eddie documentary. This man navigated 40 years in Hollywood. 40 years. With no drug scandal, no DUI. He didn't fall into all the same traps that caught up so many of his peers. And listen, Eddie had his controversies. He definitely did. Guess what? I don't care about it. I don't. I don't know if I cared then. Listen, man. In an industry that eats Black talent for breakfast, Eddie Murphy figured out the cheat code. Love yourself first, put your kids first, and keep your business straight. When he says peace of mind is the goal, it's not some fortune cookie wisdom. That's survival strategy at the highest level. While everybody else was trying to be the loudest in the room, Eddie was being the smartest. Think about the pattern here. Awareness of what the game really was, navigation through an industry designed to destroy you, and a sense of duty to bring others with you. Eddie never announced this as his philosophy. He just lived it. The man gave Dave Chappelle a huge early look in The Nutty Professor, and look at who Dave Chappelle is right now. That's why Dave Chappelle would drop every and anything if Eddie Murphy picks up the phone. Eddie Murphy's doing SNL, Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock are there. Dave Chappelle is the biggest thing in comedy since Eddie Murphy. And he's doing this documentary. Dave drops everything and says, I'm doing that damn documentary for Eddie. Nah, man. Eddie didn't ask for all this respect. He didn't make platitudes. He just put Dave in the Nutty Professor and kept it moving. When Martin needed to level up from stand-up, Eddie put him in Boomerang as his best friend. And then they linked up again for one of the funniest movies of all time, Life, and killed it together. Now they really are going to be stuck together for life because their kids is married. How can you put a better bow on that friendship? Listen, man, Eddie put that man in his movie as his best friend, and not as a small part, not as comic relief, but as a fully developed character with his own arc. Boomerang was so special to me because he had these different type of Black women and these different type of Black men. You had the suave, like super dope, successful Eddie Murphy. You had David Allen Greer as this sensitive, like in touch with himself, Black man and his emotions. You had, man, Martin Lawrence was like the pro-Black, you know what I'm saying? They would call him Hotep today. Spears. Asparagus Spears. Why they gotta be Asparagus Spears? It's racial. And if you don't get that reference, refer to my first time saying this, okay? Listen, man, I know we're in a time and place in society where you can't show love. They call it meat riding and all that stuff, man. We gotta show these elders and these legends love, especially while they're here and they can hear it. I know Eddie been playing around with coming back to stand up, and I don't know if I want him to. I want him to enjoy his life. He's giving it to us. I watch Delirious and Raw all the time. Eddie, you can do whatever you want. If you want to sit in your house and play with you know what I want you to do, Eddie? At the end of the documentary, they got these puppets. There's a Richard Pryor puppet. There's a Bill Cosby puppet, and there is a Paul Mooney puppet, and he's just in the middle and doing these voices, and he does them incredibly. And it was so funny in the little 3 minutes to 5 minutes that it was on air. If Eddie wants to just come back and just do a show with them puppets, I'm in heaven. I'm buying all the merch. I'm buying it all. Don't let it be an in-studio thing. It never would, but if it was, I'm getting tickets and flying there to see it. You understand? I'm sorry, I got lost a little bit. Fourth lesson, let your work be your clapback. Critics called Boomerang science fiction. They said Harlem Nights was a failure. They said Saturday Night Live tried to turn him into a punchline. Eddie's response was never a press conference. It was the next project. The real rebuttal was decades of relevance. And when Saturday Night Live disrespected him with that David Spade joke, calling him a fallen star. Eddie didn't write a diss track. He didn't go on a press tour. He didn't cry about it. He just stayed away for 20 years. And then he came back on his own terms when he was ready. I think I said more like 30 years later, maybe 30 years, but multiple decades is a long time. All right. He stood on it too. And when he came back on his own terms, when he was ready, he showed them that he never fell off. He was just selective. That's what you do. And these are lessons to me because I have a need to want to explain myself. Listen, when I was younger, because I lived in all these places, right? I was born in the Chicago area. I lived in Kentucky. I lived in Oakland. I had a really, really, really thick accent. But the problem is I lived in so many places, the accent it was all these accents jumbled together. And because of that, people didn't always understand me. And to this day, I get so annoyed. Maybe that's why I do this podcast in large part, because I hate being misunderstood. I hate it. It drives me crazy. So these lessons that I'm sharing with you all, they're applicable to you, but they're also just lessons for me from the GOAT. All right. So, all these have a deep and personal space in my heart, which leads me to the fifth lesson. It's okay to go away. It's okay to go away. You don't owe people your presence. You do not have to be the jester on command. There is power in saying you do not get access to me if you don't respect me. It's power in saying I've been here for too long. Y'all are comfortable. It's time for me to go. You know what else nobody was doing? Turning down the party. Eddie Murphy, at the height of the cocaine 80s, was hanging out with Belushi and Robin Williams. He never touched it. You know how much cocaine probably got snorted between John Belushi and Robin Williams? Look, I digress. You want to talk about agency? That's agency, damn it. That's saying I define my own terms of success. I can be the biggest thing going in the 80s. And I ain't got a party like you jokers. I do what I want to do. I don't follow trends. I am the trend. If I want to wear a red leather jumpsuit that you think is funny looking, I'm going to make it the hottest shit in the country. And then for my next special, I'm doing blue. And I'm fly. Listen, man. You get to leave when you want. You get to do things on your terms when you're that guy or when you're that gal. That's how you know. Not what your friends say, not what your mama say. We talking about people like Eddie Murphy, Tyson, Jordan, Janet. You see what I'm saying? Like Michael Jackson. They don't follow the trend. They don't stick around when they don't want to. They go. And they come back. The same way Michael Jordan was like, I don't want to do no interviews. I'm going to do my own documentary. Nah, I think I want to talk about some basketball now. The audience ain't leaving. They there. And they all perform when they come back. Anyway, lesson 6. Choose life over legend. In a business that loves a tragic ending, Eddie chose to be present, clear-headed, and alive for his kids and his work. All 10 of them damn kids. It's a lot of kids. Legend is nice. Living long enough to enjoy your life is better. This is the motto. People, this is the motto. Not the loud performance, it's the quiet build-up. The one where you create institutions without announcing it. Where you create opportunities without needing credit. Where you maintain your dignity without explaining yourself to people who are never gonna understand you anyway. And I need to take that lesson because I get frustrated and I get angry and I get mad. All the time. This is a ministry to me. Eddie Murphy is in his 60s now. Still raising his kids. Still at peace. Still creating on his own terms. And if that ain't impact, I don't know what is. Here's a lesson I think that we should put out there for our young people. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to explain your excellence to people who want to call it science fiction. You just got to do your work, open doors, and love yourself enough to say no to what don't serve you. That's what Eddie Murphy taught us. That's what he taught me. Not in a TED Talk, not in a master class, not at some conference, not in something that's super sanitized and that has been affirmed by the establishment. Eddie Murphy been doing what the fuck he wants since he started. Eddie Murphy is the biggest star to come out of Saturday Night Live. Eddie Murphy single-handedly, him and Joe Piscopo maybe, saved SNL. But in 40 years of showing us what it looks like to be unapologetically excellent while maintaining your peace, Eddie Murphy is at peace. And if you can't see the impact in that, well, maybe you the one that's living in science fiction. Thank you for listening to the Color Commentary with Dr. Cole. We love to hear from you. So drop us an email at colorcommentarypod@gmail.com. Once again, that's colorcommentarypod@gmail.com. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star rating, share it on social media, and join us every Thursday for more Color Commentary with Dr. Cole.